The following is a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports. The main goal for the 2009 offseason for the Steelers first and foremost was to re-sign many of their free agents as possible. Management completed the highest priority item of its offseason checklist by reaching an agreement with James Harrison on a 6-year, $51.2 million contract, which included $20 million in guaranteed money. The team was also successful in extending the contracts of Max Starks, 4 years, $26.3 million, and Heath Miller, 6 years, $35.3 million, both of whom were potential free agents after the season. Additionally, contract extensions were completed with receiver Hines Ward, 5 years, $22.1 million, guard Chris Kemoeatu, 5 years, $20 million, center Justin Hartwig, 4 years, $10 million, and defensive end Brett Kiesel, 5 years, $18.85 million. The team's priority needs coming into the 2009 season were considered to be shoring up the offensive line and improving performance on special teams, primarily a kick returner. In addition, they were forced to address the loss through free agency on two key contributors, starting cornerback Brian McFadden and number 3 wide receiver Nate Washington. The front office and coaching staff also had to focus on uncovering for eventual replacements for some aging cogs, defensive end Aaron Smith and cornerback Deshae Townsend, who were 33 and 34 respectively at the start of the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers kicked off the 2009 season on a Thursday night on September 10th against the previous season's AFC 1 seed, the Tennessee Titans, in what turned out to be a defensive slugfest that made it all the way to overtime at 10-10. Jeff Reed was able to kick the game-winning field goal in overtime to give the Steelers a 13-10 win to start the 2009 season. What followed next was another tight matchup against the Chicago Bears in Chicago, in which the Steelers had a 14-7 lead heading into the fourth quarter. But two critical missed field goals by Jeff Reed and a fourth quarter comeback by Jay Cutler and the Bears led the home team to a 17-14 win. The Bengals in Cincinnati were next for the Steelers, a place where Ben Roethlisberger had never lost to until September 27, 2009. Once again, just like the previous week, the Steelers had a lead going into the fourth quarter 20-9, only to have it be blown by the home team Bengals on a fourth quarter comeback to have the Cincinnati Bengals winning 23-20. For the first time since 2006, the Steelers were 1-2. The team returned home in Week 4 when the San Diego Chargers came to town on a Sunday night, and once again, the Steelers had a lead heading into Quarter 3, up 28-7, and once again, the fourth saw the opposing team coming back, only this time, the Steelers were able to stop the bleeding by winning 38-28 to get back to 2-2. Wins against the Lions, Browns, Vikings, and Broncos got the Steelers back to 6-2. Then on November 15th, the Bengals came back into Pittsburgh and swept the Steelers for the first time since 1998, winning 18-12. A devastating overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime followed the next week. And then another overtime loss to Baltimore, their first loss in the Harbaugh-Flacco era. Yet another embarrassing loss to the Raiders, and then the Browns put the Steelers at 6-7 and in danger of missing the playoffs altogether. Then came an epic bout with the Green Bay Packers on December 20th as Aaron Rodgers, in his second year as Packers quarterback, that had flashbacks of the Cowboys game from the year before, except there was a lot more offense. And much like a lot of the Steelers games this season, the Steelers had a lead heading into the fourth quarter, up 24-14. But then the Packers scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to give them a 36-30 lead with less than 2 minutes remaining. That's when Big Ben and the Steelers went back to work and put together a monumental drive down the field that had flashes back to Super Bowl XLIII in the final drive. With only 3 seconds left, Ben Roethlisberger at the 28-yard line threw a bomb to rookie Mike Wallace in the corner of the end zone in the game that was reminiscent of Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl on the last drive to tie the game up, and for Reed to kick the game-winning extra point. After 5 weeks, the Steelers stopped the bleeding and got back to 500 at 7-7 with 2 games left and the playoffs still possible. Next up was a rematch with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and once again it was another close matchup, but a field goal in the fourth quarter was the difference for the black and gold as they won it 23-20, knocking the Ravens out of the division title territory and keeping the Steelers in the playoff hunt at 8-7. The scenario was complicated, but not impossible for Pittsburgh. The Steelers needed to win the finale against Miami, but in addition to that, they needed the Jets, the Ravens, and the Broncos all to lose. But despite the Steelers winning convincingly against Miami 30-24, the Ravens ended up beating the Raiders later that day, and thus the Ravens got the last spot in the AFC playoffs. And for the first time in the Tomlin era, the Steelers were eliminated from postseason contention. The Pittsburgh Steelers battled many injuries throughout the year. Troy Polamalu only played in 5 games the entire season. Ben Roethlisberger missed a critical divisional game against the Ravens due to concussion. Chris Moriatu missed 4 games, Travis Kerskey missed 5 games, and Aaron Smith missed 10 games. The Steelers beat 4 eventual playoff-bound teams: the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, the Baltimore Ravens, and the San Diego Chargers. The Steelers' offense gave 369 yards a game, 263 coming through the air, and 106 coming on the ground. The Steelers' defense allowed their opponents to compile 305 average yards per game and allowed only an average of 89 yards a game on the ground. Ben Roethlisberger was able to set team passing records in the following categories: completion percentages, completions, attempts, and yards. The Steelers' defense compiled 47 sacks, and the team finished with 41 total touchdowns and 3 defensive touchdowns. However, 5 of the Steelers' 7 losses came from blowing leads in the fourth quarter. Had they won those games, they would have finished easily with a 14-2 record. 5 of those losses came consecutively, losing to the Browns, Chiefs, Raiders, and Browns. They finished 2-4 against teams with losing records. Pittsburgh's special team allowed 8 straight kickoff punt returns for touchdowns. The Steelers also allowed for a 100-yard rusher in Week 16 against Baltimore, Ray Rice, with 141 yards, snapping their 33-game streak of not allowing one. Ben Roethlisberger was voted the team's most valuable player and Offensive Player of the Year. He was the first quarterback in Steelers franchise history to throw for 4,000 yards in the season, throwing 26 touchdowns. Rookie of the Year honors went to receiver Mike Wallace, who with 39 receptions for 756 yards and 6 touchdowns. Rashard Mendenhall was awarded Most Improved Player, finishing with 1,108 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Defensive Player of the Year went to James Harrison, who finished with 79 tackles, 11 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Harrison and Casey Hampton were voted to the Pro Bowl. Harrison as a starter and Hampton as a reserve. Lamar Woodley and Heath Miller were added to the Pro Bowl roster as replacement for players who couldn't attend. Ben Roethlisberger, who was the first alternate among AFC QBs, but due to a shoulder injury, he turned down the opportunity to replace Tom Brady. Lamar Woodley was named to the Associated Press's All-Pro second team. James Harrison received the 5th most votes among outside linebackers in the AP balloting, leaving him just off the second team. However, it was later discovered that Brian Cushing of the Houston Texans, who was named to the AP's second team of outside linebacker, had tested positive for a banned drug during the season. The AP chose to reopen balloting, and Harrison and Lance Briggs of the Chicago Bears leapfrogged Cushing and made the second team. Other Steelers receiving AP All-Pro votes were tackle Willie Colon, nose tackle Casey Hampton, tight end Heath Miller, and place kicker Jeff Reed. Harrison was named a second-team All-Pro by the Sporting News. The 2009 season saw a lot of disappointment for the Steelers, but the last few weeks saw a glimmer of hope for what 2010 would be like. But it wasn't without its obstacles.
Some major news involving one of football's biggest stars. Today, the NFL suspended Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger for the first 6 games of next season. Last month, a 20-year-old college student in Georgia accused him of sexually assaulting her. Roethlisberger, who's won 2 Super Bowls, was not charged criminally, but the NFL says he violated the league's personal conduct policy.